It was a cold night, the kind of night when even the moon seemed tired and the streets looked empty and lonely. The clock had just passed midnight, and the small house at the end of the lane was silent except for the soft ticking of an old wall clock. Inside, Mary sat in her chair near the window, knitting quietly. The world outside was asleep, and she liked the peace that came at that hour. She was thinking about her daughter Anna, who had been married for 3 years now. Sometimes she worried about her, but she never said it out loud. Anna's husband, David, seemed like a good man from the outside. But a mother's heart always feels what the eyes cannot see. That night, Mary felt something strange inside her chest, a small uneasiness that she couldn't explain. She thought maybe it was just the cold air or her age catching up to her. She stood up to make some tea, but before she could reach the kitchen, she heard a faint sound from outside. At first it was soft, like a knock, but then it came again, louder this time. 3 knocks, slow, heavy. Mary froze where she stood. Nobody came to her house at midnight. For a moment she thought maybe it was the wind or some animal brushing against the door. But then she heard a voice, weak, broken, trembling. "Mom, please open the door." Her heart jumped. It was Anna's voice. For a second, she couldn't move. She thought maybe she was dreaming or hearing things. But then the voice came again, even weaker this time. "Mom, please, open." Mary ran to the door, her hands shaking so badly that she could hardly turn the lock. When she pulled it open, her eyes went wide in horror. There on the cold doorstep lay her daughter, her sweet, gentle Anna, half-conscious. Her face pale, her body trembling, her hair sticking to her face with sweat and tears. Her dress was torn on one side, and there was a dark mark on her cheek. Mary gasped, falling to her knees beside her. "Anna, what happened?" But Anna couldn't answer. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Mary pulled her inside quickly, closing the door behind her as the cold air rushed in. She dragged Anna to the couch and ran to bring some water. When she returned, Anna was trying to sit up, her breathing heavy and uneven. Mary helped her drink a little water. And only then did Anna whisper something that made Mary's blood run cold. "He hit me, Mom." Her voice was shaking. "David, he hit me." Mary felt as if the ground under her feet had disappeared. She stared at her daughter in disbelief. "What are you saying, Anna? Why? What happened?" But Anna could only shake her head. Tears ran down her cheeks, and she whispered again, He is someone else." For a few moments, silence filled the room. Only the ticking of the clock could be heard, slow and heavy, like a heartbeat. Mary sat frozen. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. David, the man who had promised to love and protect her daughter, the one who used to bring flowers every Sunday morning and smile so kindly at family dinners. Mary's mind couldn't accept it. She felt anger, fear, and pain all at once. She looked at Anna, her face bruised, her body trembling, and she knew this was not a nightmare. It was real, Anna cried quietly, covering her face with her hands. "I saw them together, Mom," she whispered. "He said he was working late, but when I went to his office, I saw him with that woman. When I asked him, he got angry. He shouted. Then he hit me. I ran. I didn't know where to go. So I came here." Her words broke into sobs. Mary hugged her tightly, trying to hold her daughter's shaking body still. She wanted to say something, anything that would make it better, but no words came. She could only whisper, "You're safe now, Anna. You're safe here." Outside, the wind blew stronger, whistling through the trees. The moonlight fell through the window, touching Anna's pale face. Mary looked at her daughter's closed eyes and thought about the day she got married. She remembered how happy Anna had looked in her white dress, how David had promised to take care of her forever. Now, that same man had left bruises on her skin and fear in her heart. Mary felt her hands curl into fists. She wanted to go to him, to ask him why, to demand an answer. But deep down, she knew that things were more complicated. Secrets like these never came alone. They carried darkness behind them. The night passed slowly. Mary didn't sleep at all. She stayed beside Anna, watching her breathe, brushing her hair gently. Sometimes Anna would move and whisper in her sleep, saying David's name, crying softly. Mary's heart broke a little more every time. She remembered her husband, who had died many years ago, and how lonely it felt to raise Anna alone. She had always feared that one day someone might hurt her. But she had never imagined it would be the man she trusted most. As dawn began to touch the sky, Mary heard a car stop outside. Her heart raced again. Who could it be at this hour? She looked out through the curtain and froze. It was David's car. He stepped out, looking around nervously, his shirt wrinkled, his face pale. He knocked on the door, softly at first. "Mary," he called out. "Is Anna here? Please, let me talk to her." Mary stood still, her heart beating fast. She didn't answer. He knocked again, louder this time. "Mary, please, I need to explain. It's not what she thinks." His voice sounded desperate, but Mary didn't move. She looked at her daughter still sleeping on the couch, her face peaceful for the first time since she came home. Then she looked at the door where the man who had hurt her stood waiting. Inside her chest, two feelings falling: anger and fear. She wanted to open the door and scream at him, but something told her not to. Something about his voice didn't sound right. It wasn't guilt or regret. It was panic, as if he was afraid of something else, not just being caught. Mary's instincts whispered that there was more to the story than what she had heard. She slowly stepped back from the window and went to the phone. She didn't call the police yet. Instead, she waited, listening to David's voice outside. "Mary, please. She doesn't understand. That woman means nothing. I just need to see her. I can explain everything." His words made Mary's stomach twist. If he really cared, why did he hurt her? Why did Anna have bruises on her face and fear in her eyes? No explanation could erase that after a few minutes. David's voice stopped. Mary peeked through the curtain again. He was standing near his car, talking on his phone. His face looked angry now. Then, to her surprise, he looked directly toward the window as if he knew she was watching. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Mary felt a chill run through her body. His expression changed, softened into something she couldn't read. Then he smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was cold, empty. He got into his car and drove away into the morning fog. Mary stood there, frozen for a while. She didn't know what that smile meant, but it made her uneasy. Something told her that this was not the end of it, that he would come back, that the story Anna had told her was only the beginning. She turned back to her daughter and sat down again. Watching the soft light of morning fill the room, the peace didn't last long. Around GAM, the phone rang. Mary jumped. She quickly picked it up. It was a woman's voice, soft but strange. "Is this Mrs. Mary Dawson?" the woman asked. Mary hesitated. "Yes, who is this?" The woman paused for a second before saying, "You don't know me, but you should. I'm the reason your daughter came to you last night." Mary's breath caught in her throat. Before she could say anything, the woman hung up. The phone slipped from Mary's hand, landing on the floor with a dull sound. Her mind went blank for a moment. The words echoed in her ears again and again. "I'm the reason your daughter came to you last night." Mary slowly looked at Anna, who was still asleep on the couch, unaware of what had just happened. Her heart pounded faster and her hands trembled. Who was that woman? Was she the one David was seeing? Why would she call now? And what did she mean by those words? The morning light seemed to fade and the room grew colder again. The peace that had come after the long night was gone. Mary knew one thing for sure now, whatever truth waited behind David's actions. It was far darker than she had imagined. And the woman on the phone had just opened a door that should never have been opened. The story was far from over. It had just begun. The rest of the morning passed slowly, filled with silence and worry. Mary could not stop thinking about the strange phone call. The woman's voice still echoed in her mind, calm, soft, but cold. "I'm the reason your daughter came to you last night." Those words had shaken her deeply. She wanted to believe it was some mistake, maybe even a cruel prank. But inside her heart, she knew it was not. The woman on the phone knew something about Anna and David, something terrible. Mary sat by Anna's side, watching her sleep. Her daughter's face looked a little better now, though there were still marks of pain and fear. Mary brushed a strand of hair from Anna's forehead and sighed. She didn't want to wake her, but she also couldn't sit still any longer. Questions filled her mind. Who was that woman? Was she David's mistress? Was she trying to hurt Anna again? And how did she know Mary's number? After a while, Anna woke up slowly. She looked weak but calmer. When she saw her mother, she tried to smile. "Mom, I'm sorry for coming so late last night," she said softly. "I didn't know where else to go." Mary smiled faintly, hiding her worry. "Don't be sorry, dear. This is your home. You can always come here." Anna sat up, looking around as if trying to remember where she was. Then her face fell when memories of the night returned. She lowered her head and whispered, "Did he call?" Mary hesitated for a moment. "No, he didn't." She lied. She didn't want to tell Anna about the morning visit or the phone call. Not yet. Anna looked relieved but sad. "Good," she said quietly. "I don't want to hear from him." Mary went to the kitchen and made breakfast, but neither of them ate much. Anna stared at her plate without touching it, lost in thought. Mary wanted to ask more, to understand what had really happened, but she didn't want to push her daughter too hard. The silence between them felt heavy, filled with things neither of them wanted to say out loud after breakfast. Mary decided to step outside to clear her mind. She walked down the small path beside the house, the morning air cool against her face. The sun was up now, but the world still felt gray and uneasy. As she reached the mailbox at the end of the driveway, she noticed something odd. There was an envelope inside, plain white, with no stamp or address. Just her name written neatly in black ink. Mary Dawson. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked around, but there was no one in sight. She opened the envelope slowly, her fingers trembling. Inside was a single photograph. When she saw it, her breath caught. It was a picture of David standing close to a woman Mary didn't recognize. The woman had long dark hair and sharp eyes. They were standing near a car, and David's hand was on her shoulder. What made Mary freeze, though, was not the closeness, it was the look on David's face. He didn't look happy. He looked scared at the bottom of the photo. There were words written in red ink. "You don't know who he really is." Mary's hands shook as she held the photo. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. She looked again, hoping it was some trick, but it wasn't. The writing was real. The fear on David's face was real. And whoever had left the envelope knew where she lived. She hurried back inside, locking the door behind her. Anna looked up, alarmed by her mother's pale face. "Mom, what happened?" she asked quickly. Mary didn't know what to say. She didn't want to scare her, but she also couldn't hide it anymore. She handed her the photo. Anna took it and stared for a long moment. Her lips trembled. That's the woman I saw," she whispered. "The one in his office. That's her." Mary sat beside her. "Do you know who she is?" she asked softly. Anna shook her head. "No, but she works somewhere near him. I saw her once before, but he said she was just a friend. When I asked him that night, he lost control. He said I was spying on him, that I didn't trust him. Then he hit me." Her voice broke. Tears filled her eyes again. "I ran before he could say anything else." Mary hugged her gently, trying to comfort her. But her mind was racing. The photo, the letter, the phone call, it all felt connected. Maybe the woman on the phone was the one in the picture. But why would she send this? And why now? For the rest of the day, Mary stayed alert. Every small sound made her jump. She kept the curtains closed and double-checked the locks. Anna tried to rest, but Mary could tell she was still scared. In the afternoon, the phone rang again. This time Mary hesitated before answering. Her hands shook as she picked it up. "Hello." A soft laugh came from the other side. It was the same woman's voice. "You found the photo, didn't you?" she said. Mary's throat went dry. "Who are you?" she asked. "What do you want?" The woman sighed. "What I want doesn't matter. What matters is what you need to know. David is not who you think he is. He's hiding something that could destroy both you and your daughter." Mary gripped the phone tighter. "Why are you telling me this?" she demanded. "If you know something, say it clearly." The woman chuckled softly. "Oh, I will. But not yet. Sometimes the truth needs to wait for the right moment." Then her tone changed, becoming serious. "Watch your door tonight, Mrs. Dawson, because someone else is watching it too." The line went dead. Mary stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. The phone slipped from her hand. "Someone else is watching it too." The words echoed again and again. She ran to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to look out. The street was quiet, empty, just like before. But the quiet now felt different. It felt heavy, like someone really was there, hiding in the shadows. Anna came running. "Mom, what happened?" she asked. Mary forced a smile, pretending nothing was wrong. "Nothing, dear. Just a wrong number." She didn't want to worry her, not yet. But she couldn't stop the fear building inside her. The evening came faster than usual. The sky turned gray and the air grew colder. Mary cooked some soup for dinner, but neither of them ate much. Anna kept asking if she could go to her room to rest, and Mary finally agreed. After Anna went upstairs, Mary sat alone in the living room, staring at the phone on the table. Should she call the police? But what would she say? That a strange woman called her and sent a photo. They would probably think it was nothing serious. It was around 10 p.m. when she heard it, a faint noise outside, like footsteps. Slow, steady, too deliberate to be the wind. Mary's body stiffened. She turned off the light and moved quietly toward the window. Through the thin gap in the curtain, she saw a shadow move near the front gate. Someone was out there. Her breath quickened. She waited, watching carefully. The shadow stood still for a moment, then moved closer. She could see the outline of a man, tall, wearing a dark coat. Her first thought was David. But something about the way he moved didn't feel right. He wasn't walking like a husband looking for his wife. He was moving like someone searching for something else, or someone else. Mary's heart thudded louder. She thought of calling the police, but she was afraid of making noise. The man stopped near the door, looking around. Then, suddenly, he bent down and placed something on the step. After that, he turned and disappeared into the darkness. Mary waited a few seconds, then slowly opened the door. There was a small package lying there, wrapped in brown paper, tied with string. No name, no note. Her hands trembled as she picked it up and brought it inside. She placed it on the table and stared at it for a long time. Should she open it? What if it was dangerous? Finally, she took a deep breath and untied the string. Inside the paper was a small box. She opened it carefully and gasped. Inside was a gold bracelet, Anna's bracelet, the one she had worn on her wedding day. But that wasn't the only thing. Under the bracelet was a folded piece of paper. She opened it slowly. It said, "If you love your daughter, keep her away from him. He's not what he seems." Mary's knees felt weak. She sat down holding the note tightly. Who had sent this? Was it the same woman? Or the man outside? And what did they mean? He's not what he seems. Upstairs, Anna was still awake. She came down when she heard her mother moving around. "Mom, what's that?" she asked. Mary showed her the bracelet, and Anna's eyes filled with tears. "That's mine," she said softly. "It went missing 2 weeks ago. I thought I lost it." Mary held her hand. "Someone just left it at the door," she whispered. Anna's face turned pale. "Who would do that?" she asked. Mary didn't answer. She didn't know. But deep inside, she felt the truth was getting closer, and it was something she wasn't ready to face. Outside, the wind howled again, and the lights flickered. The air in the house felt colder, heavier, almost as if the walls were listening. Anna looked at her mother with fear in her eyes. "Mom," she said quietly, "what if he comes back tonight?" Mary looked toward the door, her heart pounding. She wanted to say he wouldn't, but she couldn't lie. Because deep down, she felt it too. He would come back. And when he did, something terrible would happen. The clock struck midnight again, and just as the sound faded, there was a soft knock on the door. The clock's chime still echoed faintly through the quiet house when the first knock came. It was soft, almost gentle, but in that silence, it sounded like thunder. Mary froze, her heart pounding painfully inside her chest. The memory of the previous night flashed before her eyes. Anna, collapsing at her door, trembling, broken, covered in bruises. And now, at the same hour, another knock. Anna looked at her mother with wide eyes, fear filling every part of her face. "Mom," she whispered, "don't open it." Mary didn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the door. The knock came again, this time a little louder, a little firmer. Whoever was outside wasn't leaving. The air inside the house grew thick, and the only sound besides the knocking was the ticking of the wall clock, marking each second with cruel patience. Mary took a deep breath. "Stay here," she said quietly. Anna grabbed her hand. "No, Mom, please. What if it's him?" Her voice trembled. Mary looked into her daughter's frightened eyes and squeezed her hand gently. "If it is, he won't hurt you again. Not while you're here." She stepped toward the door, trying to keep her legs steady, though her body was shaking. The third knock came sharp, impatient. Mary's hand hovered over the lock. "Who's there?" She called out, trying to sound calm. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then a voice came through the doorman's voice, low, rough, and unfamiliar. "Mrs. Dawson." Mary's heart skipped a beat. "That wasn't David. Who are you?" She asked again, louder this time. "I'm Detective Harris," the voice said. "I'm sorry to come this late, ma'am, but it's important. May I speak with you for a moment?" Mary hesitated. A detective. She didn't know what to think. She slowly turned the lock and opened the door just enough to see a man standing there. He was tall, wearing a dark coat with a badge clipped to his belt. His expression was serious, his eyes alert. "Are you Mrs. Mary Dawson?" he asked. Mary nodded. "Yes." "What's this about?" The detective looked past her shoulder into the dark hallway. "Is your daughter, Anna Dawson, here?" Mary's heart sank. "Why?" she asked, her voice suddenly small. The detective sighed softly. "Ma'am, there's been an incident involving her husband, David Miller. We've been trying to contact her since last night." Anna's voice came from behind her. "What happened to him?" she asked, stepping into view. The detective looked at her for a long moment, his eyes softening. "Miss Dawson, I'm sorry, but your husband was found dead early this morning." The words fell like a heavy stone. Anna's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stood frozen, staring at the detective as if she hadn't understood. Dead. She finally whispered. He nodded slowly. "Yes, we found his car near the old bridge on Highway 9. It seems he lost control and went off the road. But there are some things that don't quite add up. We're investigating it as suspicious for now." Mary felt the ground sway beneath her. The room seemed to tilt, her vision blurring for a moment. Dead. The man who had hurt her daughter. The man she had feared might come back. Gone. But even as shock filled her, she noticed something in the detective's tone of hesitation. Suspicious. That word echoed in her mind. Anna collapsed into the nearest chair, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "He can't be. I just saw him." He was angry but alive. Detective Harris stepped inside, his eyes kind but watchful. "I understand this is hard," he said softly, "but we need to ask some questions. When was the last time you saw him?" Anna wiped her tears, her voice trembling. "Last night? Around 10? We argued. He hit me." She hesitated before continuing. "Then I ran away and came here." The detective nodded, taking notes in a small pad. "And before that argument, did you notice anything strange about his behavior? Was he worried, nervous, or acting differently?" Anna thought for a moment. "Yes. He was getting phone calls. Late at night. When I asked, he said it was work, but he always stepped outside to talk. I knew he was lying." Her voice broke again. "He was hiding something." Mary watched the detective closely. He didn't look surprised by what Anna said. Instead, he looked as if he already knew. After a few more questions, Detective Harris closed his notebook. "Thank you, Miss Dawson. I'm sorry for your loss, and I know this is painful." But please don't leave town for now. We might need to talk again." He turned to leave, but Mary stopped him. "Detective," she said quietly, "did someone call you about him? A woman, maybe?" He looked at her, frowning slightly. "A woman. Yes, someone called me earlier today. She said she was the reason my daughter came home last night. Then she sent a photo of my son-in-law with another woman. And tonight, someone left a box at our door with my daughter's missing bracelet and a note warning me to keep her away from him." The detective's eyes widened slightly. "You still have the photo and the note." Mary nodded and handed them to him. He studied them carefully, his expression turning serious. "This handwriting. This is the same as what we found in his car," he said quietly. Mary's stomach turned cold. "What do you mean?" He looked up. There was a note on the passenger seat. It said, "You can't hide forever." It was written in the same hand. For a moment, no one spoke. The wind outside pressed against the windows, and the silence felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. "Detective?" Harris looked back at Mary. "Whoever sent these notes isn't just trying to scare you. They're involved somehow. If you get another call or message, you must tell me right away." He handed her his card. "Don't try to handle this alone." Mary nodded slowly, her hands trembling. The detective left, and the sound of his car faded into the night. Inside, Anna sat quietly, staring at the wall. "He's gone," she whispered. "He's really gone." Mary sat beside her and held her close. "It's over now," she said softly. But even as she said the words, she didn't believe them. Something inside her whispered that the story was far from over. The rest of the night was sleepless. Anna cried until she had no tears left. Mary stayed awake, watching the shadows on the wall move as the wind blew through the trees outside. Every sound made her tense. The detective's words kept repeating in her mind, same handwriting. "You can't hide forever." By morning, Anna was exhausted and pale. She barely spoke, lost in her thoughts. Mary made tea and sat at the table, staring at the detective's card. She wanted to call him again to ask for answers, but she didn't know what to ask. All she knew was that a dark cloud was still hanging over them around noon. There was a knock at the door again, this time gentle, almost polite. Mary's heart jumped, but when she opened the door, it wasn't the detective. It was a woman. She looked about 30, with long black hair and dark eyes that seemed to know too much. She smiled faintly. "Mrs. Dawson." Mary nodded slowly. "Yes. Who are you?" The woman tilted her head slightly. "I think you already know." Mary froze. It was the same voice. The one from the phone. Before Mary could speak, Anna came to the doorway. The moment she saw the woman, her face went pale. "You," she gasped. "You're the one, Davids. You're her." The woman looked at Anna, her expression calm. "Yes, I'm Julia," she said softly. "David and I work together. And before you start shouting, no, I wasn't just his mistress." Mary stepped forward, anger rising. "Then what were you? Why are you doing this to my daughter?" Julia sighed and looked down. "You think you know him," she said quietly, "but you don't. David wasn't who he said he was. He was hiding something dangerous. And now that he's dead, that danger is coming for you both." Anna shook her head in disbelief. "What are you talking about? He was just an engineer. He went to work, came home late, yes, he cheated, but he wasn't dangerous." Julia looked up, her eyes sharp. "He wasn't an engineer, Anna. He was working with people who do bad things. Very bad things. He kept files, money, and names. That's why they killed him. And now they'll come looking for what he had. And you, his wife, are the first person they'll suspect of having it." Mary felt a room spin. "Files, money. What are you saying?" Julia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I tried to warn you last night. That's why I sent the photo. I thought if you knew the truth, you'd make her leave him. But it was too late. They already had eyes on him." She looked toward the window nervously. "They might be watching you right now." Anne's hands trembled. "No, this can't be real." Julia sighed. It's real. And if you want to live, you need to leave this place tonight." Mary stared at her, torn between fear and disbelief. "Leave? Where?" Julia didn't answer. She looked at both of them, her expression filled with urgency. "Pack a small bag. Don't tell anyone where you're going. I'll come back after dark and I'll take you somewhere safe," before Mary could respond. Julia turned and walked away. Disappearing down the street, Anna collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. "Mom, this is insane," she whispered. "What if she's lying? What if she's the one who killed him?" Mary sat beside her, unsure of what to believe. Julia's words had been strange, but her fear had seemed real. Still, everything was happening too fast. The afternoon passed in silence. Every creak of the floor, every car passing outside made Mary's heart jump. She tried to tell herself that Julia might be wrong, that the detective would protect them, but deep down, she knew something was coming. When the sky turned dark again, the phone rang once more. Mary picked it up, expecting Julia's voice, but it wasn't her. It was a man's voice, cold, deep, unfamiliar. "Mrs. Dawson," he said slowly, "you have something that doesn't belong to you. If you want your daughter to stay alive, you'll return it before sunrise." Mary's voice broke. "Who are you? What do you want?" The line crackled and the man spoke again, lower this time. "You know what we want, and you know where to find us." Then the line went dead. Mary stood still, her hand trembling around the phone. The room felt darker now, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Anna looked at her mother's pale face and whispered, "Mom, what did he say?" Mary looked up slowly, her lips dry and shaking. "He said, 'We have something that belongs to them.'" Anna frowned. "But we don't. We don't have anything." Mary stared at the small gold bracelet lying on the table, the one that had been left at their door. Her heart dropped. Maybe that was what they wanted, and outside, through the thin curtain, a black car had just stopped in front of the house. The sound of the car engine was low and steady, like a deep growl under the night air. Mary stood frozen near the window, her fingers gripping the curtain tightly. Through the thin gap, she could see the dark car parked across the street, its headlights off, its windows tinted. It hadn't moved for several minutes. The street was quiet, empty, too quiet for that hour. Her stomach twisted with fear. She knew, somehow, that whoever was inside wasn't just a stranger passing by. They were there for a reason. Anna was sitting on the couch, hugging her knees, watching her mother with frightened eyes. "Mom, what is it?" she asked in a trembling voice. Mary didn't answer at first. She didn't want to scare her daughter more than she already was. But Anna followed her gaze and saw the car too. Her face went pale instantly. "It's them, isn't it?" she whispered. Mary took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Maybe it's just someone lost," she said softly, though she didn't believe her own words. She stepped back from the window and turned off the small lamp beside the couch, plunging the room into dimness. The only light came from the clock on the wall and the faint glow of the street outside. "We'll wait," she said quietly. "We won't open the door for anyone." Minutes passed, slow and heavy. The car didn't move. Sometimes Mary thought she saw a flicker of movement inside, like someone shifting in the driver's seat, but it was hard to tell through the dark glass. Her heart beat faster with every passing second. Suddenly, there was a soft tap at the back door. Mary jumped. Anna let out a small gasp and covered her mouth. "Mom," she whispered. Mary's body stiffened. No one ever used the back door, opened into a small alley that led nowhere but behind the neighboring houses. She moved quietly toward it, her bare feet making no sound on the floor. The tapping came again, 3 soft knocks, steady and careful. She hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "Who's there?" A familiar voice answered, low and urgent. "It's me, Julia. Let me in, quick." Mary's heart raced. She unlocked the door and pulled it open. Julia slipped inside, her face pale, her hair slightly messy as if she had been running. She closed the door quickly behind her and locked it again. They're here, she said breathlessly. You need to leave now. Anna stood up. Who's here? She demanded. That Julia looked at her seriously. The people David worked for. The ones who killed him. They know you have something of his. Mary stared at her. But we don't have anything. Julia shook her head. Yes, you do. The bracelet. Anna looked down at the table where the gold bracelet lay, glinting faintly under the dim light. It's just jewelry, she said. Julia stepped closer, her eyes sharp. No, it's not. It's a code. There's a small chip hidden inside the clasp. It has information, names, bank accounts, transactions. Everything David was keeping on them. That's what they're looking for. Mary felt cold all over. She looked at the bracelet again, realizing that what she thought was a gift of love was actually a dangerous secret. So that's why he died, she whispered. Julia nodded. Yes, he tried to run, but they found him. Now they think you have the rest of it. They won't stop until they get it back. Anna's voice shook. Then what do we do? Julia looked toward the window nervously. We leave. Right now? Before they come inside? Mary hesitated. She didn't want to run from her own home, but one look at her daughter's frightened face made the decision for her. She quickly grabbed a small bag and stuffed a few things inside her wallet, some clothes and the bracelet wrapped in a handkerchief. Julia checked through the window again and whispered, the car's still there. They're watching the front. We'll go through the alley. They moved quietly, every sound feeling louder than it should. The old wooden floor creaked under their feet. The wind outside rustled through the trees. As they stepped into the cold night air, Mary looked back at her house. A place that once felt safe and warm now seemed like a trap. She felt a pang in her chest, but she pushed it down and followed Julia into the shadows. The alley behind the house was narrow and dark, lined with tall fences and garbage bins. The moonlight barely reached the ground. They walked quickly but carefully, trying not to make noise. Anna held her mother's arm tightly, her breathing short and fast. Julia led the way, glancing behind them every few seconds. When they reached the end of the alley, Julia stopped and held up her hand. Wait, she whispered. She peeked around the corner, then motioned for them to follow. They slipped out onto the next street, which was empty and silent. A black van was parked near the corner, and Julia hurried toward it. Get in, she said. It's safe. Mary hesitated again. Whose van is this? She asked. Someone I trust, Julia replied quickly. We don't have time. They climbed inside, and the van started moving almost immediately. The driver was a man in his 40s with a rough face and tired eyes. He didn't speak. Julia sat beside him, giving directions in a low voice. Mary looked out the window as their house disappeared into the distance. Her heart ached. Everything had changed in just 2 days. Yesterday her daughter had been married and living her life. Now they were running for their lives, chased by people they didn't even know. After a while, Julia turned to them. There's a safe place outside the city, she said. A small cabin near the lake. No one will find you there. You'll stay until I can figure out what to do with the chip. Anna stared at her. Why are you helping us? She asked. If they're dangerous, why risk your life? Julia looked away for a moment. Because I owe David, she said quietly. He wasn't a bad man, Anna. He made mistakes, but he tried to fix them. He wanted to protect you. That's why he hid the information in your bracelet. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Protect me. He hit me, Julia. He lied to me. He cheated on me. How is that protecting me? Julia looked at her sadly. He didn't want to hurt you. But when he realized they were watching him, he started to lose control. Fear changes people. The van drove for more than an hour before finally stopping near a dirt road surrounded by trees. The lake shimmered faintly in the distance under the moonlight. Julia led them to a small cabin hidden between tall pines. It looked old but sturdy. You can stay here for now, she said. Don't open the door for anyone but me. I'll come back tomorrow. Mary nodded, still trying to understand everything. Will they follow us here? She asked. Julia shook her head. Not tonight. They think you're still at home. But they'll find the empty house soon, so you need to stay quiet." Before leaving, Julia looked at Mary seriously. "Keep the bracelet safe. Don't try to open it. And whatever happens, don't trust anyone who says they're there to help. Not even the police." Then she disappeared into the woods, leaving Mary and Anna alone in the dark cabin. The air inside was cold and smelled of old wood. There was one small lamp, a couch, and a single bed. Anna sat down exhausted, her eyes still red from crying. Mary closed the door tightly and checked the windows twice before turning off the light. For a while, there was silence. Only the sound of the wind outside and the soft ripple of the lake reached their ears. Mary tried to rest, but her mind wouldn't stop spinning. Julia's words, the bracelet, David's death, it all felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. At some point, she must have fallen asleep because when she opened her eyes again, the cabin was dark. The lamp had gone out and everything was quiet. Too quiet. She looked over and saw Anna sleeping on the couch, her face peaceful at last. For the first time in 2 days. She seemed at rest that Mary was about to close her eyes again when she heard a faint crunch outside, like footsteps on dry leaves. Her body stiffened. She sat up slowly, listening. There it was again. Closer this time, her heart began to race. She stood up carefully and moved toward the window. The night was thick, but under the weak moonlight, she could see a figure standing near the trees. The same black car from earlier was parked on the dirt road. Mary's breath caught in her throat. They had found them. She backed away from the window quietly, trying not to make a sound. She reached for her daughter's shoulder and shook her gently. "Anna," she whispered, "wake up." Anna opened her eyes, confused. "What's wrong, Mom?" Mary didn't answer. She just pointed to the window. Anna stood slowly, peering outside. When she saw the car, she gasped softly. "No." Then they both froze. From outside, a voice called softly through the darkness. "Mary, Anna, I know you're in there. You can't run forever." The voice was deep and calm, not angry, not shouting, just certain. Anna's hand gripped her mother's tightly. "Mom," she whispered, "that's not David's voice, but it sounds like someone who knows us." The voice came again, closer now. "Give us what's ours, and no one gets hurt." Mary felt her knees tremble. She didn't know whether to run, hide, or scream. The door shook slightly, as if someone had tested the handle. Then silence. For a few moments, there was nothing but the sound of the wind, and then a single note slid under the door. Mary bent down slowly and picked it up. It was folded neatly, like the others before. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside were just 5 words written in the same red ink. "We found her." Too late. Mary looked up sharply. She whispered. Anna's face went pale. "Mom." Julia isn't answering her phone. Outside, the black car's engine started and drove away into the darkness. The black car disappeared down the dirt road, its red taillights vanishing into the trees. Mary stood frozen by the window, the note still trembling in her hand. Anna clung to her arm, her eyes wide with fear. The silence that followed was louder than any sound they could hear their own breathing. The soft creak of the floor under their feet, and the faint rustle of leaves outside. Mary slowly unfolded the note again, as if reading the words might somehow make them mean something different. "We found her. It's too late." The words burned in her mind. "Her," she whispered again. "They mean Julia." Anna's voice broke the silence. "Mom, do you think she's Mary?" Shook her head quickly, her voice low. "Don't say it. We don't know that." But deep inside, a heavy sadness was already forming. A quiet certainty she didn't want to face. The night dragged on painfully slow. Neither of them could sleep. Every sound outside felt like danger, the hoot of an owl, the creak of the trees, even the wind against the window. Anna sat on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders, staring at the bracelet on the table. It glowed faintly in the lamplight, innocent and beautiful, yet full of secrets. After hours of silence, Anna finally said, "Mom, If that bracelet really has something inside it, shouldn't we try to find out what it is? Maybe it'll tell us why they're doing this. Carrie hesitated. Julia had warned them not to touch it. But Julia might be gone now, and they were running out of time. We don't have the tools, she said quietly. Anna looked thoughtful. Maybe we don't need them. David once showed me something. He used a lightsome kind of laser to read a chip without opening it. She stood up, her face determined. If I can find out what's inside, maybe we can end this. Mary didn't want to stop her. There was something in her daughter's voice, an edge of strength she hadn't heard before. The girl who had collapsed at her door now sounded like someone, ready to fight back. They searched the small cabin until they found an old flashlight. Anna took it apart, creating a narrow beam. She held the bracelet under it, turning it slowly, trying to see the tiny space inside the clasp. After a few minutes, something flickered, a small, faint reflection like a dot of glass. There, Anna whispered. Something's in there. Mary leaned closer. Can you get it out? Anna shook her head. It's sealed, but maybe we can see what kind of chip it is. She held it closer to the light, then gasped. It's not just a chip. It's a tracker. Mary's heart skipped. A tracker. Anna nodded slowly. Yes, whoever's after us, they can find us through this. Mary's breath caught. She grabbed the bracelet quickly, her fingers trembling. We have to get rid of it now. She rushed to the door, opened it, and threw the bracelet as far into the dark woods as she could. It landed somewhere among the trees with a faint clink. For a moment, they both stood there in silence, staring into the night. Then Anna said softly, Mom, what if that was the only proof of what happened to Dad? Mary turned toward her, her face pale. If it means keeping you safe, I don't care about proof. She closed the door firmly, locked it, and leaned against it, breathing heavily. The cabin fell quiet again. But the peace didn't last long. A few minutes later, a phone started ringing. Mary looked around, startled. Do you hear that? She whispered. Anna frowned. There's no signal here. We don't even have a phone. The ringing continued muffled, faint, but clear. It was coming from somewhere inside the cabin. Mary followed the sound, her heart pounding. It led her to this small wooden drawer near the bed. She opened it slowly, and inside, wrapped in a torn piece of cloth, was an old phone. She picked it up carefully. The screen was cracked, the battery almost dead. The number flashing on it was unknown. She hesitated, then answered. For a moment there was only static. Then a man's voice came through, low and rough. Mary, he said, don't throw it away. Her body froze. Who is this? You have something that belongs to us, the voice continued calmly. But you also have something else, something your daughter doesn't know yet. Mary's throat tightened. What do you mean? The voice gave a soft, chilling laugh. David told us everything before he died. He didn't just have a mistress, Mary. He had a plan, a deal, and you were part of it. Mary's blood ran cold. That's a lie. The man didn't argue. You think you're running from us, but you're really running from the truth. The line went dead. Mary stood there, her hands shaking as she lowered the phone. Her face had gone pale, her lips trembling. Anna rushed to her side. Mom, who was that? What did they say? Mary opened her mouth to answer, but the words wouldn't come out. Her mind was spinning. What did he mean by she was part of it? She couldn't remember doing anything wrong, nothing that would connect her to whatever David had done. But what if there was something she didn't know? Anna took the phone gently from her mother's hand. The screen was still on, showing one new message. She tapped it open. There was a photo. It showed David live, sitting in a dimly lit room, tied to a chair, his head hanging forward. The timestamp was from 2 hours ago. Anna's breath caught. Mom, she whispered. He's alive. Mary stared at the image, her heart pounding so loud it hurt. That's not possible, she said in a shaky voice. We saw his grave. We buried him. Anna turned the phone around again, zooming in on the background of the photo. There was a symbol on the wall behind David, something like a circle with a line through it, drawn in red. Mom, she said, I've seen this before. On Julia's bracelet. She wore one just like it. Mary suddenly remembered something the last time she had seen Julia at David's funeral. Wearing a silver bracelet with that exact same mark. Julia had called it a reminder. But a reminder of what? Before Mary could think more, the phone vibrated again. Another message appeared. If you want him back, come alone. The lake. 3 a.m. Mary looked at the clock on the wall. It was 2:37. Anna grabbed her hand. Mom, no. It's a trap. Mary shook her head, her face torn between fear and hope. If he's alive, I have to go. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Please, Mom, we can't trust them. They're lying. But Mary wasn't listening anymore. She grabbed her coat and moved toward the door. I'll be back before sunrise, she said softly. Lock the door. Don't let anyone in. Anna tried to stop her, but Mary slipped out into the cold night before she could say another word. The wind whipped around her face as she walked down the narrow path toward the lake. The moonlight shimmered over the water like broken glass. She reached the edge of the dock, her heart beating fast. The night was silent, too silent. The surface of the lake was still reflecting the pale light of the moon. David. She called softly, Are you here? There was no answer. Just the gentle lap of water against the wood. She took a step forward, then another. The boards creaked under her feet. Suddenly. Something glimmered at the edge of the dock, a small, golden shape half submerged in the water. She knelt down and picked it up. It was the bracelet. The same one she had thrown into the woods. Her breath caught, and then from behind her a whisper. Looking for this? She turned around slowly, her eyes widening as the moonlight fell on the face of the man standing there. It wasn't David. It was the driver of Julia's van, and in his hand he was holding Julia's phone. The screen glowed faintly, showing a video thumbnail. The title read, Confession, the real truth about David. Mary's voice trembled. What did you do to her? The man smiled faintly. You'll find out soon enough. He pressed play. The sound of Julia's voice filled the night air. Mary, if you're watching this, it means they found you. And you need to know the truth about what David really did. Mary's heart stopped. The cold air wrapped around Mary like a shroud as the man pressed play on the phone. The night was still, and the only sound was Julia's trembling voice coming through the small speaker. The lake's reflection shimmered behind them, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying every word like a ghostly echo. Mary, Julia's voice said softly, if you're watching this, it means they found you. And you need to know the truth about David. Mary's heart pounded as she gripped her coat tightly. The man's eyes were on her, calm and watchful, but she barely noticed him. Her focus was on Julia's face on the screen. She looked tired, pale, and afraid. Her hair was messy, and behind her was a wall marked with that same red circle symbol Anna had seen earlier. Julia took a deep breath in the video. You think David was just unfaithful? That he had a mistress and a secret life? But there's more. So much more. Her voice shook slightly. He worked for them, Mary, for the same people who are after you now. They made him do terrible things, money laundering, fake accounts, threats. But he wanted out. He told me he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. Mary felt her chest tighten. The man standing near her crossed his arms, watching her closely, his expression unreadable. Julia continued. He said he had found a way to expose them. He had gathered proof documents, recordings, everything. But he needed a way to hide it. That's when he came up with the idea of the bracelet. He said no one would suspect something so personal. Mary's eyes filled with tears. He did it for Anna, she whispered. Julia's recorded voice seemed to answer her thought. He wanted to protect Anna, yes. But there's something else you don't know. She looked straight into the camera now, her eyes heavy with emotion. Mary, the reason you're being hunted is because they think you helped him. Mary's stomach dropped. She whispered in disbelief. The man gave a faint smile, but said nothing. Julia continued. You remember that night 2 months ago when he came home late? You said he looked terrified. He told you to sign a paper for his company, remember? You didn't read it too, just trusted him. That paper. It wasn't for the company. It was a transfer. He used your name to move all the money from their accounts into a secret one. Mary felt dizzy. The world spun for a moment. No, she said, shaking her head. That can't be true. Julia's voice trembled again. He wanted to disappear with Anna, start fresh. He said the money was his way to buy their freedom, but they found out. That's why he was killed. And now they think you still have access to that account. The video glitched for a second, the sound fading. Then Julia's voice came back, softer now, almost a whisper. I tried to protect you, but someone betrayed me. If you want to live, Mary, destroy the bracelet and run. Don't trust the man who brought you this message. He works for them. Mary's heart stopped. She turned slowly toward the man beside her. He was still watching Urbit now. His faint smile had disappeared. His expression had turned cold, sharp, dangerous. Before she could move, he snatched the phone back from her and threw it into the lake. It disappeared beneath the dark water with a soft splash. You shouldn't have heard that, he said quietly. Mary stepped back, her voice shaking. Julia was right. You're one of them. The man didn't deny it. He stepped closer, his boots crunching on the wooden dock. You don't understand, Mary. We don't want to hurt you. We just want what's ours. Carrie's back hit the railing. The lake rippled behind her. I don't have anything, she cried. The man's tone softened suddenly. You do? You just don't know it yet. She frowned, confused. What are you talking about? He leaned closer, his eyes dark. The bracelet wasn't the only thing David left behind. He hid something else, something only you can unlock. Mary's hands trembled. Where? He smiled faintly. You'll remember soon. Before she could say another word, headlights flashed across the trees. A car was approaching the lake, fast. The man's expression changed instantly. His calm face twisted into irritation. They found us, he hissed. We're not done, Mary. He turned and ran into the woods, vanishing into the darkness just as the car came to a stop. Mary stood frozen on the dock, her heart racing. The car door opened, and a figure stepped out. Tana. Mom? She cried, running toward her. I've followed you. Are you okay? Mary rushed to her and hugged her tightly, trembling. Anna, we have to leave. Right now? Anna looked around nervously. What happened? Who was that man? Mary didn't answer. We'll talk later. Get in the car. They drove back toward the cabin, the headlights cutting through the fog that had begun to rise over the forest. Mary's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her mind racing with everything she had just heard. After a long silence, Anna spoke softly. Mom, what did he say? Mary's voice was barely a whisper. He said David used my name, that I was part of it. Anna turned to look at her. That can't be true. Mary shook her head, her eyes wet. I don't know what's true anymore. When they reached the cabin, the door was slightly open. Mary stopped the car, her stomach twisting. I locked it, she said quietly. Anna's face paled. Mom? Someone's inside. They got out slowly, the gravel crunching under their feet. The cabin light was flickering inside, and the air felt heavy to still. Too quiet, Mary pushed the door open carefully. Hello? She called no answer. She stepped inside. The room looked the same at first, the couch, the lamp, the blanket. But then she noticed something different. On the table lay a small box wrapped in black cloth. Anna whispered that wasn't there before. Mary approached it slowly. The box was old and wooden, carved with the same red circle symbol. Her hands trembled as she unwrapped it. Inside was a single key on a note. Anna leaned closer. What does it say? Mary read aloud in a soft, shaky voice. You're getting close. The key opens what David left behind. But remember, every truth has a price. Under the note was a small map, hand-drawn, leading to a place near the edge of the forest. It was marked with a single word, cellar. Mary and Anna exchanged a glance. Anna whispered, "Do you think that's where he hid the rest of the evidence?" Mary nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or maybe something worse." The lamp flickered again. This time, it didn't turn back on. The room fell into darkness, and from the woods outside came a sound soft but clear. A woman's scream. Anna froze. "Mom, that sounded like Julia." Mary's breath caught in her throat. She turned toward the door, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. "It can't be," she whispered. But deep inside, she knew the truth. That scream wasn't just a memory, it was coming from the direction of the cellar. Mary and Anna stood at the edge of the forest, the map clutched tightly in Mary's hand. The night was thick, dark, and cold, with fog curling around the trunks of the trees like ghostly fingers. Mary's heart pounded so hard it felt like it might break through her chest. The scream they had just heard still echoed in her mind. Julia's voice, or someone claiming to be Julia, had sounded terrified. But the forest was silent now, almost too quiet. Anna's hand shook as she pointed to the path ahead. "Mom, this way," she whispered. The map led them through a narrow trail lined with thick bushes. Every step they took made the dry leaves crunch underfoot, and Mary had to remind herself to stay calm. She felt like someone or something was watching them as they walked deeper into the woods. Mary remembered Julia's warning, "Don't trust anyone who says they're here to help." She glanced at Anna, whose pale face and wide eyes mirrored her own fear. They moved cautiously, side by side, holding on to each other for comfort. After about 20 minutes of tense walking, they came to a small clearing. The moonlight revealed a wooden door embedded into the ground, almost hidden beneath fallen leaves and moss. The door was old, weathered, and covered in scratches, with a small iron handle at its center. Mary's breath caught. "This must be it," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. Mary nodded slowly. She knelt down and examined the door. The key from the box fit perfectly into the lock. Her hands shook as she turned it. The lock clicked, echoing through the still night. And she hesitated for a moment, staring at the darkness beyond the door. Anna looked at her mother. "Mom, are we ready for this?" Mary swallowed hard. "We don't have a choice. We need answers." They pulled the door open, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. The air that escaped was damp, cold, and smelled faintly of earth and decay. They stepped inside cautiously, the floorboards creaking beneath their weight. The light from the moon barely reached them. They had to rely on the small flashlight they carried. At the bottom of the stairs, they found a small stone-walled cellar. Dust and cobwebs filled the corners. In the center of the room was a wooden crate, old and heavy, with markings that matched the red circle symbol they had seen before. Mary's hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside the crate were stacks of files, few hard drives, and a small, locked metal box. Mary carefully removed one of the files. The paper inside was filled with names, bank accounts, and handwritten notes. Her breath caught. This was everything Julia had warned them about, the proof of David's secret dealings. Anna picked up one of the hard drives. "Mom, this is it. This is why they killed him." Mary nodded slowly. "Yes. And maybe why they're still after us." She paused, her eyes narrowing. "But wait, this box. It's locked. Maybe the key in the note opens it." Anna took the key from Mary's pocket and inserted it into this small metal box. It clicked open. Inside was a small black envelope. Mary carefully opened it and pulled out a USB drive and a folded piece of paper. The paper had only one sentence written in red ink. "The truth will change everything you think you know." Mary's hands shook as she took the USB. She glanced at Anna, who looked as pale as a ghost. Do we even want to know what's on this?" Anna asked softly. Mary hesitated. Her heart screamed both yes and no. But curiosity, fear, and the desperate need to understand what had happened to David and Julia outweighed her caution. "We have to know," she said. Mary plugged the USB into her phone, using the small adapter Julia had given her weeks before. A single video appeared. She clicked on it, and the screen flickered to life. The video showed David sitting in a dimly lit room, looking directly into the camera. His face was pale, his eyes hollow but determined. He spoke softly. "If anyone finds this, I want you to know the truth. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I tried to leave them behind, but they're too powerful. Mary, Anna, I'm so sorry for everything. I kept secrets to protect you, but it wasn't enough." Mary felt tears welling up. "David," she whispered. He continued, "the people I worked for, they're dangerous. They'll kill anyone who gets in their way. Julia tried to protect you, but she's gone now. I don't know if she survived. I hid everything in the bracelet, the box, and the USB. It's all here, proof of their crimes, their money laundering, their plans. Whoever controls this will be unstoppable. You have to be careful." Mary felt her stomach twist. "Julia, she's alive, right?" She called for help. David shook his head. "I don't know. She tried to warn you, but they found her first. She might still be alive, but you can't count on it. And Mary, you were dragged into this because they think you know where the rest of it is. Anna, keep her safe. Destroy the files if you have to. Trust no one." The video ended abruptly, leaving Mary and Anna in the cold darkness of the cellar. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Anna's voice was barely a whisper. "Mom, what do we do now?" Mary clutched the USB and the files. "We take it all. And we run. We can't stay here. They'll come looking for us. And this time, they won't wait for us to be unprepared." Suddenly, from above the stairs, they heard a soft creak, like a floorboard shifting. Mary froze. Her heart pounded. "Someone's here," she whispered. Anna gripped her mother's arm tightly. "Mom, it's them. They found us." A shadow fell across the top of the stairs. The faint moonlight revealed a figure descending slowly toward them. The person moved deliberately, confidently. Mary stepped in front of Anna. "Stay back," she whispered. The figure came closer. Mary's breath caught as she recognized the voice, low and cold. "Looking for something?" Her stomach twisted. She couldn't see the face clearly in the dark, but the voice. It was all too familiar, and then a flashlight clicked on. Illuminating the figure, it wasn't David. It wasn't Julia. It was the man from the lake. The one who had brought them Julia's phone. He smiled faintly, holding a gun in his hand. Mary's heart froze. Mary and Anna stood frozen in the cellar, the cold stone walls closing in around them. The man from the lake, the one who had brought Julia's phone, stood at the foot of the stairs, a gun in his hand and a cruel smile on his face. The small flashlight he held flickered across the walls, revealing the crate of files, the USB, and the bracelet. Mary's hands shook. She clutched the USB like it was a lifeline. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling but strong. "What do you want from us?" The man's smile didn't waver. "I already told you. I want what belongs to us. That USB, those files, that bracelet. And I want to know you didn't make any mistakes." Anna stepped closer to her mother, her eyes wide. "Mom, what do we do? He has a gun." Mary tried to steady her breathing. She had never felt this helpless, this terrified in her entire life. But there was no turning back now. "Stay behind me," she whispered. The man took a slow step forward, his boots scraping lightly against the stone floor. "You don't understand," he said, his tone almost casual. "David made a lot of enemies. People who want revenge. People who think you have what he left behind. If you don't hand it over, well, I'm sure you can guess what happens." Mary swallowed hard, trying to keep calm. She thought about Julia, about David, about Anna. She had to make a choice, run blindly. Fight or somehow outsmart him. Her eyes fell on the crate of files. If she could grab them and the USB at the same time, maybe they could escape. She moved slowly toward it, trying not to make sudden movements. The man noticed immediately. "Careful," he said, raising the gun slightly. "One wrong move, and it's over." Mary froze, her mind racing. Then an idea struck her. She remembered the small pile of dust near the corner of the cellar stairs, a thin layer of dirt and debris. If she could throw something to distract him, maybe she could create a chance to escape. She picked up one of the smaller files and threw it toward the far wall. It hit with a soft thud, scattering a few papers. The man's head snapped toward the sound, and Mary took the chance to grab the USB and shove it into her pocket. Anna grabbed the bracelet from the table, her hands trembling. "Run!" Mary shouted. The man's head whipped back just in time to see them sprint toward the stairs. He raised the gun, firing a shot. The bullet ricocheted off the stone wall, sending a shower of tiny fragments around them. Mary and Anna ducked instinctively and scrambled up the steps. The cellar door slammed behind them, and Mary bolted it shut. She turned the key from the metal box in the lock, her hands shaking so badly that it took 3 tries. "Mom, is he coming?" Anna whispered, her voice shaking. Mary pressed her back against the door. "I don't know," she admitted. Her mind raced. The USB and files were safe for now, but the man had seen where they were hiding. He knew they had the evidence. And worse, he knew Mary and Anna could be hunted down again. Outside, the night was silent. The fog had thickened, curling around the trees and hiding everything beyond a few feet. Mary grabbed Anna's hand. "We can't stay here. We have to leave the forest tonight." Anna nodded, though tears were streaming down her face. "Where do we go?" "We have nothing. No one we can trust." Carrie shook her head. "We go where Julia planned. The safe house. If she's still alive, she'll be waiting. If not, we'll figure it out there." They ran through the foggy forest, the crates and files left behind, but the USB and bracelet clutched tightly. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves made them jump. Their breaths came in sharp, frozen gasps. Mary felt the cold bite through her clothes, but fear made her blood burn hot. Suddenly, a branch snapped behind them. Mary spun around. A shadow moved quickly through the fog, too fast to see clearly, too deliberate to ignore Mom. "He's here," Anna whispered, panic rising in her voice. Mary's heart raced. She ducked behind a tree, pressing Anna close. They crouched, trying to make themselves invisible in the thick fog. The shadow moved closer, and Mary could see the faint glint of a flashlight cutting through the mist. "Come out," a deep voice called. It wasn't the man from the lake. This voice was different, lower, more commanding. "We know you have the evidence. Give it to us, and no one gets hurt." Mary pressed Anna's face to her shoulder. "We don't have to do this. We can fight. Or run," she whispered. Anna's hands trembled as she clutched the bracelet. "Mom, they're everywhere." Mary looked around. The forest seemed to close in, shadows moving with a life of their own. The USB and the bracelet weighed heavily in her pocket, not just physically, but with the burden of secrets, lies and death. And then, from behind the trees, a voice called again, familiar, soft, trembling, "Mary." Mary's blood ran cold. She froze. The voice. "It was Julia Dote Anna," whispered Mom. "Is she alive?" Mary didn't answer. She pressed herself closer to her daughter. "I don't know, but we have to see." They crept cautiously toward the sound. The fog was thick, and every step felt like it could be their last. And then suddenly, Julia emerged from the mist, her face pale, her eyes wide, but alive. Mary ran to her. "Julia, thank God you're alive." Julia shook her head. "No time. They know we're here. We have to move now." Mary glanced behind them. The shadows were moving faster. The sounds of footsteps and whispered voices surrounding them. Julia grabbed the USB and the bracelet from Mary's pocket. "This is what they want," she said, her voice urgent. "We have to destroy it before they take it." Mary's stomach twisted. Destroy it? But that's all the proof. David's truth. Julia's eyes were fierce. "Better his secrets die than you both." Suddenly, a flash of light from a flashlight illuminated the clearing. A man stepped forward. Not the one from the lake, not Julia, someone else entirely. He wore a dark coat and a mask that covered half his face, and in his hand A gun. Julia's eyes widened. Run, she shouted. Mary grabbed Anna's hand. They turned, sprinting blindly into the foggy forest. The sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Branches whipped against their faces. Roots tripped them. Every step felt like running through a nightmare. Mary's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she kept moving. Anna stumbled, and she caught her just in time. The forest seemed endless. And yet somewhere ahead, Mary could see a faint glow, a possible escape. Or maybe another trap. She whispered to Anna, "Whatever happens, stay with me. Don't let go." And behind them, the masked man's voice called out, calm but terrifying, "You can run. But you can't hide forever." Mary, Anna, and Julia ran through the thick forest, the fog curling around them like a living thing. Every snap of a branch, every rustle of leaves made their hearts pound faster. The masked man's voice had followed them for a while, calling out threats and warnings, but now it had fallen silent. Still, the tension was unbearable. Mary glanced at Julia. "Where do we go? We can't keep running forever." Julia's eyes were sharp and alert. "There's an abandoned cabin not far from here. It's small, but it has a hidden basement. We can lock ourselves in and finally figure this out." Anna's hands trembled as she held the bracelet tightly. "Mom, the USB? What if they find it while we run?" Mary nodded. "Keep it safe. We have to. David's secrets. They're dangerous, but they might be the only way to end this." They moved cautiously, stepping over roots and rocks. The forest seemed endless, but finally, through the fog, they saw the silhouette of a small cabin. It was old, wooden, and almost hidden among the trees. Julia led the way, pressing a hand against the door and opening it quietly. Inside, the cabin was empty but sturdy. Julia immediately checked the windows and bolted the doors. Mary and Anna collapsed against the walls, breathing heavily. For the first time in hours, they felt a tiny sense of safety. Julia turned to them, her face pale but determined. "Now we have to go through everything. The bracelet, the USB. David left it all for a reason. We need to understand it." Mary took a deep breath and opened the bracelet. Inside, a tiny chip glinted. Julia carefully removed it with a small tool she had brought. "This chip. It's connected to the USB. Whatever's on it is encrypted. But if we combine them, we can see everything David hid, the accounts, the plans, the people involved." Anna looked at the bracelet and the USB nervously. "Do we even want to know?" Mary nodded slowly. "We have to. This is the only way to protect ourselves. And maybe stop the people hunting us." Julia plugged the chip into a small device she carried. The USB connected to it, and a series of files appeared on the small laptop screen. Names, dates, transactions, and videos flooded the screen. Mary's eyes widened as she scanned them. "These are all of David's dealings," she whispered. "The people he worked for. They're powerful, dangerous." Julia nodded. "Yes, and some of them are still alive. They'll do anything to recover this information. That's why they killed David." "And why they came after you?" Mary's stomach twisted. "And Julia, what about you? Are you safe?" Julia's eyes hardened. "Not really. That's why we need to finish this quickly. There's one video I want you to see. David recorded it for us. It explains everything, even the truth about the bracelet." Mary's hands shook as she clicked the file. The video showed David sitting in the dimly lit room, looking pale but composed. "Mary, Anna," David's voice began, "I know you've been dragged into a world you didn't ask for. I made mistakes. I kept secrets, but I hid the truth because I wanted to protect you. The bracelet, the files, they contain evidence against the people I worked for. They're dangerous. They killed me for a reason, but I left this for you so that no one else has to suffer the way I did. Julia knows the rest. Trust her and trust yourselves." Mary's tears fell freely. He wanted us safe. Anna sobbed softly. Mom, all this time, everything we went through. Julia placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. It's not over yet. The files are evidence. If we release them to the authorities, these people will be exposed. But they'll come for us first if they know we have it. Mary clenched her fists. Then we finish this. Tonight, Julia nodded. We destroy the secrets in a controlled way. The USB and the chip. We'll copy the evidence, then make sure they can't use it against anyone else. But we have to lure them here. They'll come if they think we're still hiding it. Anna's eyes widened. You mean a trap? Julia nodded. Yes, but it's the only way to end this. Hours passed as they worked quietly, preparing the trap. The cabin was cold, silent except for the soft hum of the devices and the occasional whisper of the wind outside. Mary's heart ached with fear and exhaustion, but she stayed focused. Anna followed Julia's instructions, helping to set the stage. Finally, everything was ready. They sat quietly in the cabin, listening to the forest. Every rustle of leaves made Mary's heart leap. Every shadow outside the window made Anna shiver. And then, from the darkness, a figure appeared. It was the man from the lake, the one who had first found them. His face was calm, confident, and cruel. He stepped toward the cabin, unaware that Mary, Anna, and Julia were waiting inside. Julia whispered, "Get ready. This is it." Mary's hand tightened around the USB. Anna held the bracelet like a shield. The man reached the cabin door and paused, pulled out a small device, and tried to unlock it. Mary held her breath. Then Julia flipped the switch. The cabin lights flashed briefly, and a recording played David's voice, loud and clear. "You've been found. But you won't get what you came for." The man froze, confused, and looked around. That moment was all Julia needed. She pressed a button on the device, sending an alert to the authorities with the evidence copied from the USB and the chip. Within minutes, the sounds of sirens echoed through the forest. The man's face twisted in fury as he realized the trap. No, this can't be happening. He shouted. Mary, Anna, and Julia huddled together, watching as the authorities moved in. But just as relief began to settle in, another shadow emerged behind the first man-taller figure. More menacing. Mary gasped. Who is that? Julia's face went pale. It's him. The leader, the one who's been controlling everything. The leader's voice was calm, deep, and terrifying. You think this ends here? You have no idea what you've started. Mary's heart pounded. Anna clung to her mother. The evidence was safe for now, but the real danger had just arrived. Mary, Anna, and Julia stood in the cabin, frozen, as the leader of the organization stepped into the dim light. His presence was commanding, terrifying, like the dark shadow of every danger they had faced in the past weeks. The fog outside the cabin seemed to press against the windows. And the silence was heavy, tense, broken only by the faint sound of sirens approaching. Mary's hands shook around the USB and the bracelet. We have everything. We just need to survive, she whispered to Julia. Julia nodded. Stay calm. Don't make sudden moves. He's dangerous, but he doesn't know we've already alerted the authorities. They'll be here any second. The leader's eyes scanned the room, cold and calculating. So, you finally have it. All the proof David left behind. But you think that makes you safe? You think I'll let you destroy my empire? Mary's chest tightened, but she forced herself to speak. Your empire is over. All the crimes David exposed. Everyone will know. You can't stop it. The leader's lips curved into a faint, cruel smile. You have no idea what I'm capable of. You have no idea what it will cost to stop me. Julia stepped forward bravely, holding the bracelet and USB in front of her like a shield. We're not afraid of you anymore. The truth is out now, whether you like it or not. Mary's voice joined hers. You killed David, and you thought you could control us, but you underestimated us? For a tense moment, the leader didn't move. Then, slowly, he raised his hand, signaling someone or something outside the cabin. Mary's stomach dropped as she realized there were more of them. Waiting in the shadows, suddenly the front door burst open and uniformed officers stormed in. Shouts, lights, and the sound of guns clicking filled the air. The leader's expression twisted into anger and shock. Mary, Anna, and Julia crouched behind a table, holding their breaths as the authorities moved in with precision. Officers secured the room surrounding the leader and his men. The leader struggled. But it was too late. David's evidence was now in the hands of people who could stop him. Mary sank to the floor, relief and exhaustion crashing over her. Tears streamed down her face. Anna ran to her mother, wrapping her arms around her tightly. Julia joined them, her face pale but smiling faintly. "We did it," Mary whispered. "It's over." Julia shook her head slightly. "Not completely. But the worst is over. David's truth. His evidence? It's safe. And the people responsible will finally face justice." Anna looked at the bracelet and USB in Julia's hands. "We kept it. We really kept it safe," she said softly. Mary nodded. "Yes. And we survived." For the first time in what felt like forever, they allowed themselves a moment of peace. The storm of fear, secrecy, and danger that had consumed their lives was finally lifting. The sun began to rise, casting pale light through the cabin windows, illuminating their tired, tear-streaked faces. Mary stood and looked out the window. The forest seemed calm now, almost peaceful. She thought of David, of Julia, and of all the secrets that had brought them to the edge of danger. She felt a bittersweet sorrow for everything they had lost, but also a deep gratitude that they had made it through together. Julia placed a hand on Mary's shoulder. "You were brave, Mary. And Anna, you were brave too. You both faced horrors that no one should ever have to face." Mary hugged Anna tightly. "We have each other, and that's what matters." Anna smiled through her tears. "And we finally know the truth." Julia nodded. "Yes, the truth can hurt, but it can also free you. And that's exactly what it did." Mary turned to look at both Julia and Anna. "We survived the lies, the secrets, and the danger. We faced everything and we're still standing. That's what matters. And we'll make sure David's truth never disappears." The three of them stood together, watching the sunrise over the forest. The air was calm, fresh, and full of hope. For the first time in a long while, they could breathe, knowing the nightmare was finally behind them. Mary smiled, her eyes glistening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, sometimes the truth is hidden, but courage can uncover it. Always trust yourself and never give up, no matter how dark things seem. The forest outside the cabin glowed in the early morning light, the shadows retreating, leaving only the promise of a new beginning.